Hey, welcome back. Welcome back, A&P students. I know I did an earlier one for the bio, so I got to make sure. Sometimes I got to think, okay, who's in this one? Who's in this one? But no, A&P students. Hey, welcome back. Glad to see you. Glad to connect with you in this way. Glad to be a part of your educational journey, whatever school you may be at, whether you're at the high school, and we're getting together daily, whether you're at Crowder, and we got those two great sessions from a great class. That is a great class, and I've mentioned that a few times, but the energy that you guys have, it's fun to be around. Uh, gotta be on my toes. It's a pretty good group, but look forward to the challenge. Look forward to the participation there of what you got going on. So hey, welcome back. We are going to start a series today. This will be a three-parter. At least I think it'll be a three-parter. Just basically looking at the level of information, the amount of information. It looks like it's going to be a three-parter. So it's that way the videos just aren't overwhelmingly in abundance of both energy and time. I think if I did this in two, it'd easily be an hour and a half, and that's way too much to try to process. So we'll do this in three parts. Make them a little shorter, a little more digestible. But you can see here, let me give me a pen here, and let's pull up a nice teacher red. Where you at? Where you at? There we go, right there. So again, welcome back. You can see that we are going to be talking about the integumentary system. That's easy for me to say. And man, what an important topic that is. Talk about the topic that just covers it all. No pun intended there. Integumentary system. And you can see the things that we're going to talk about. This isn't just this video. These are all three of the videos here. What we're going to talk about here is the top three. We're going to discuss these three in this episode. Okay, so hey, but as always, hope everything's going well with you guys. Hope you're doing well mentally, physically, emotionally, all that stuff. I know it's important to get a lot done. Okay, not just in this class, but in all your classes. But we want to make sure that you're feeling good and in all aspects of your life, especially with everything going on with the virus and everything. Hopefully that's not touched you. I know recently at the Beta School District we had a little bit of a pop up, but of course the A&P students at Crowder, you'll see this fairly soon. The high school students, is this your fifth unit, chapter, whatever you want to call it? So it means we're probably after Christmas, so whatever has happened will have happened by now. But hey, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. And with that, hey, let's get going. I got my trusty pen here that I wrote my notes out with, and of course I got my notes here. And for this particular one, just to get spoiler alert, I think 2 pages of notes. Yuck. But a lot of important stuff. I mean, this system right here, well, it's the most important. I mean, we think cardiovascular, we think respiratory, we think neurological, we think all that stuff. But the integumentary system, I mean, it may be the most important one of all because of all that it does and all it's responsible for. So with that, I got my glass of water too. Can't forget that. So with that, we will get started. All right. So let me pull these notes here a little closer. I don't need my actual pen. Let's get my keyboard over here a little bit. There we go. Now we are situated. So we're going to start with just an overall view. So let me get rid of this, and let me bring up one of these, and we'll put that bad boy right up here, right next to me. So you can read and type or write whatever you're doing and see me all in one close proximity, which I know is super important to you all. Of course, unless you've already put the post-it note over my picture, which is certainly understandable. All right, so let's put the, oh, not that, here we go. And then we'll put a fancy teacher word here. Overview. Yeah, that's a great teacher word right there. All right, this system consists of course, the skin, and don't get any more important than that. We'll talk about it and actually put it on the screen, but largest and heaviest organ consists of skin, and its accessory organs. I'm going to put / glands. Wait, did I mean to put, yeah. And that would probably be included in the glands. I'm going to scoot over here. My eye was itching there. You don't want to see that. Consists of skin and its accessory organs / glands. And of course, the glands we're referring to, like the sweat glands, the oil glands, that kind of stuff. And it's the most valuable organ. One thing I don't like about this Microsoft whiteboard, you don't have no spell check. So if I put something up there that's not right, I don't get that. I don't get that red line that I'm so used to with Word and everything. That I need that. Oh, because I got one right there. I'm sure you had already pointed out. You'd already figured, oh man, you got a misspelled word right there. So yeah, I need that red line in my life. I was looking at that value, but that don't look like either, but I think it is right. Yeah, I think it is right. And it's so much valuable. It's got its own, of course, a lot of organs do. I mean, there's doctors who focus just on the heart, doctors who focus just on the kidney, and the skin's no different. Dermatologists, super important people. Never actually been to one. I almost went to one time. But when I needed done, a lot of them don't do anymore. And in fact, most dermatologists anymore are heavy into skin cancer. And if you need something other than just skin cancer, it's hard to get an appointment. But that's enough about that. I'm kind of over that structure there. Let me slide over here just a little bit. There we go. Dermatology. And let me close this. And I'm going to get me a little pin here, my red again. And I'm going to blow this up so we can see this. But we're going to talk about this diagram right here. Oops, I'm writing. Bring this over here. There we go. Now I get my pen back up again. So let's just point out some different things that we're going to be talking about over the process. Of course, hair follicles. And of course, if you got hair follicles, you're going to have somewhere and the sebaceous glands that are associated with that. That's the oil that we naturally, it's not so much that we do it, but certainly other organisms like an otter certainly would put out a gland. Anything that's going to be in water that has hair would have these. We obviously put out some natural oils. I mean, you can feel that in your hair sometimes. Of course, when I do mine, I feel that not the natural stuff that's in there, but the stuff that gets put in there to try to make it at least look decent, which it never really does. So never had good hair, so I envy all those that have had good hair over the years. Of course, you got your sweat pores, but the three things that we're going to look at, and we're going to look at the epidermis today. We will touch on that real thin layer there. The interesting thing to think about that is the absence of blood vessels. You got to get down into the dermis before you start seeing those blood vessels. So when you get a paper cut that's not too bad. Okay, that's why you don't get any blood flow, because all you're really cutting into is just this layer right here. But when you do get some blood flow, that means you've gotten pretty deep. You've gotten down into the dermis here. And of course, in the hypodermis, or the fat layer down here, where the thicker blood vessels are, and just working our way around here. Some other cool stuff. I don't know if you can hear that or not. That's why I'm pausing to see if you can hear it. I'll be curious now. I have to play this back and see if you can hear it. But the ice cream truck is going past my house. So the two things that are going on. One, you're lucky that I haven't exited stage left and went out and got me a drumstick or an ice cream cone. But secondly, you get I don't know if you. I'll have to see later if you can hear that music or not. But yeah, the ice cream truck's going by. So now I got happy thoughts now, and I'm going to want a bowl of ice cream when I get done. I think we got cookies and cream in the freezer. Yeah, that's going to taste good right there. All right, back to what we were doing here. Let's see. Oh, tactile cells. We're going to talk about those today. The touch receptors. So whenever you grab onto something or you feeling something, those are the receptors. Those are the cells that pass that stimulation along. And let's see, any other key players. Oh, the hypodermis. I always like to show off my limited medical terminology, but hypodermis, hypodermic needle. That's solely named because that needle's got to reach down into that fat layer, so whatever the medicine is, whatever's being placed in there, can be absorbed at a pretty good rate. More other sweat glands here. Your nerve fibers. When we look at the different types of cells, we're going to talk about dendritic cells and stuff. So that's just some of the key players as we kind of walk around the structure, going from the top to the bottom. But again, we'll talk about epidermis today, and then the dermis and the hypodermis will be in the following videos. So let's close this out. Let's put this back. Oh, I'm going the right way. I want to go more this way. And so now let's just scoot all this back up to where it was. And I need to get the eraser out and get rid of that red line I put there that I didn't need to, because I'm going to need that spot. And we'll close this back out and move this right there. Okay, so we have covered the list of things we're going to talk about. We did the overall, we did the structure, the skin walkthrough, and now we are at the skin and alright, so I need a little notepad here, and we will put that right up here. Let's go all the way over here. So what we're going to talk about now is skin, and make sure I get this. Skin and subcutaneous. Yeah, A. Yeah, I was worried about that A right there, but I believe that is correctly spelled. Now, all right, so I've mentioned this, but it's the body's largest and heaviest organ. Now that I've mentioned spelling, I'm so concerned about it that I keep pausing. Okay, but it's got two main layers, and I'm going to do it like this. So that's going to be more like an outline format here. It's got the epidermis, okay, which is that's stratified squamous. And so hopefully you are thinking back to the tissue in chapter 5. Yeah, human tissue, chapter 5. So stratified, meaning layers. Okay, so we've got layers, and then squamous, that's the little squares. So if we were to close this and draw that, we're talking, now we'd have, oh, I did use the eraser last. So little squares, oh, I should do it this way, yeah. And then just draw me lines this way. Those are supposed to be squares, that's not squared up very well. But then we have at least another layer, and different layers, cutaneous layers, and I drew this one pretty tall. That's more columnar-like, but it's supposed to be little squares. And so it's got at least 2 layers if it's stratified, and of course squamous is the squares. But different layers of the epidermis are going to have different amounts of layers. So some will have single and be simple. Others will have 2 or more, all the way up to 30. Okay, and when we talk about this, the skin, the deep part from the, well, I should say from the bottom of the epidermis to the top, and can be up to 30 to 40 layers at some time or places. All right, so close out the pen, click back on this, edit, and then, okay, the other layer, the other main layer is the dermis. And the dermis is connective. And that's why I brought back a little bit of information from human tissue. You can see, let's close this out, get the pen back. You can see the little screenshot right here from Chapter 5, Human Tissue, the connective tissue part. We're going to talk about connective tissue in a couple of places, and we just wanted to remind ourselves what it is. So it's the tissue that connects organs to organs, and it's designed for support, protection. It's the most common type of tissue, and of course, lots and lots of blood vessels. And we also talked about not only blood vessels, but there's all kinds of things in connective tissue, especially when the immune system is involved. The macrophages, the leucites, lymphocytes, all that stuff. You got the mast cells, which help with blood clotting. You got your fat cells, which are in there. A lot of things in there. But I just wanted to remind you, because when I say connective tissue, that might require you to go zipping back into your notes to remind yourself what connective tissue is. And so I just brought that over as a help. So let's close this out, bring this back up. Okay, and all right, so the next aspect of the skin is the hypodermis. Not that. Hypodermis, and this is also connective tissue. So again, not only does it connect the things above it and things below it, but again, all that stuff that comes into play in connective tissue, lots of blood vessels and all this stuff that is in there, that is just simply designed to be a support, help, resource, whatever is needed for that tissue to survive and be prosperous. Okay, the last 2 things, there is thick skin involved in the epidermis, and you'll find those, well, I should say there's 2 types of skin. There's thick skin and there's thin skin. Thick skin, we're talking palms, palm of your hand, thick skin. We're talking sole of the feet, and no, I'm not going to put my foot up on the desk so you can see that. And the point that would not be a good teacher move at this time. And then so also fingers and when we say fingers, and we said palms and soles, what we're really talking about is things that come into contact. Things that come into contact with things. Like if someone's in construction or someone does something with their hands, maybe even I'm sure even a tennis player, a baseball player, where you're gripping things and doing things with your hands a lot. They get even more thick, and you can the old phrase and the mindset is you shake hands with somebody, you can kind of tell if they work on an office, or you possibly kind of tell if they work with their hands or they don't work with their hands. And again, the eye is bugging me there. Because of the thickness of their skin, or the way the grip feels, and the way the texture of the skin feels. So when we think of fingers, now we'd be thinking finger pads, and those things that you would use to do things, and of course also on your toes. And so with that, we'd be thinking about those pads where you're pushing down onto the ground to walk and stuff. And of course, if it's the toes, then it's also right below there, that arch part at the very top, that would you got that big bone right there that you would that you do push down as you're walking. And of course the heel as well. And of course the heel, there's all kinds of products designed to soften that skin and to work with that skin as far as removing it, all that kind of stuff. All that funny episode on Big Bang Theory where they complain about Penny's foot grooming process out in the front room in front of everybody. So if you're a fan of that show, you know which one I'm talking about. And then if we have thick skin, then we also have thin skin. Now, and we listed the places where thick skin is, and thin skin would be everywhere else other than those places. So we're talking 95 plus percent of the skin would be considered thin skin. And and I meant to say some other things up here. They've got some nose, things that they don't have. So I'm going to hit enter there, and I'll put a little outline mark here. Sweat glands. So you can sweat through your feet, and your socks would provide evidence for that, as well as the comical but yet ever present, foot odor, that kind of stuff that people, again, products to help design to deal with that. But no hair follicles. No hair follicles. And you may be saying, wait a minute, there's hair on our feet and our hands. Sure, but not in the thick areas. Like in your palm, there's no hair, and like on the bottom of your feet, in those areas, no hair follicles. And so if you don't have hair follicles, then you don't need, and I really got to take a peek at this word because it's a ACE, no sebaceous glands. And sebaceous glands are the glands that produce the oil for the most part for our hair and for our skin surfaces. So if you don't have the hair follicles, you don't need the sebaceous glands. But thin skin does have all the glands. So we do sweat through our hands, obviously. That's why you're that's why your hands can get slippery when it's warm, or like in my world where you have the gloves on, for if you're doing a dissection or just working with something that you don't need. You don't want to get on your skin or eventually like into an eye or something like that. And that's probably does have all the glands. Okay, I got the word does here, so that's okay, but it probably should have just been no does and yet has all the glands. And even the sebaceous glands for the hair that is there. All right, so looking at my list, that covers that. So we're going to go now. Let me think. But I got to keep this picture up. So we can mention this. Like there's the sebaceous gland right there that we talked about, and there's some of the sweat glands, and then there's a sweat gland over here, different type. All right, so close that back out, and let's go over here. Oh, I did an ad. I think an ad just popped up. What was it? Oh yeah, check out this app. 500 puzzles. No, thank you. Yeah, I don't need any more puzzles. My life's puzzling enough. A quick drink of water there. All right, functions. Let's talk functions. Now, the skin obviously is going to have many functions, and we're just going to hit on a few of the highlights here. But functions of the skin, obviously protection, and we're going to put no, not cart. A-T-I-N. I left out a whole bunch of words there. That don't even look right. No, that isn't right. Back up here. Got too many A's there. There we go. Keratin. Okay, we're going to mention that a bunch. Not only as a noun in itself, but keratinized cells or keratocytes, and we end today talking about the whole process of keratinocytes and their journey from being formed to their passing on the skin's surface. But certainly protection, support, again the same keratin there, support, it's a barrier. It's an important barrier when it comes to the immune system. Okay, when it comes to the immune system, when it comes to UV protection. Okay, water. Okay, it's waterproof. All those things are super important. I mean, I can't even imagine what we'd look like. It's got to be a humorous thing to think about. But if we absorbed water, well, one, we probably wouldn't take baths and showers and things like that on a regular basis because our physiology changed like that. But can you imagine if we absorbed water as we're taking a bath and we just kind of all puffed up and like a big marshmallow looking thing, and then as it evaporated, we can go back down to our regular size. That would look pretty funny. So waterproof, UV, harmful chemicals, that kind of stuff, and bacteria, because your skin is the first defense. And when you get to ANP2 and you talk the immune system, you'll hear a bunch about how the skin is that first defense against things. You've got natural predators on your skin surface that is there to attack bacteria and viruses, and you've got other mechanisms. Your skin's got a natural kind of antibacterial stuff that's going on. So barrier, vitamin D. Vitamin D synthesis, as you know, means to make something. So your skin is the first step in making vitamin D. And of course that process is finished up in the liver and kidneys, and we'll talk about that once we get to those organs. But vitamin D, making the vitamin D is super important. And sensation. Now I don't mean the kind of sensation that my lecture cause. That's a whole different level of star power and interest, good timeville. But we're talking like touch. We're talking nerve stimulus. Those kind of things. That's the sensation that referring to. Dermal regulation. Dermal regulation. So whether it's part of the sweat glands, the shivering, the goosebumps, vasoconstriction, vasodilation on the blood vessels, whatever we got going on there, it's all part of the dermal regulation. And the vasoconstriction, vasodilation, if you're not familiar with those terms, when you get to blood vessels in A&P2, you'll talk about them. But that's simply the opening and closing of blood vessels. When you open them, okay, widen them, that allows some heat to get out, because now you're stretching the surface area of the blood vessels, which allows more escape or diffusion, release, whatever you want to say there. And of course, when you constrict them, you're looking to take the surface area and decrease it, if that makes sense, therefore making the blood vessels thicker. So if you can imagine, say, take a rug, you got a carpeting in a room. If I took that carpeting and stretched it out, now the little hair, I don't even know what that stuff's called, the materials or the not fur, I almost said the word fur, but the strings or whatever that's made out of, if you stretch it out, they're going to get farther apart, which would make it thinner. But if you constricted it or pushed it together, then they would get tighter and more bunched, thicker surface. And of course, absorption. And yeah. Absorption. So we're talking not only hand lotion, which is medical, certainly medical use, but any kind of medicine. You get a skin rash. I know that I have to on occasion apply, basically for itchy skin, whatever that medical term is, and the skin absorbs it right in there and lets let that medicine do its work. All kinds of stuff like that. So absorption as well. So let's see, scoring, how much we got. Let's see, there was 8. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 things to talk about, and we just finished number 4. So we are fast approaching the halfway point of this video, and so now I'm scanning for, let's see. Oh, I could be wrong about that. I don't see a number 3 on my page drive. I went from 1 and 2 to 4, I guess. And so we're up to 6 then, it looks like. Wait, that can't be right. 1. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go with it. We got all that top half of that page done. So number 6, epidermis. So let me close this out, and now we're going to let's zoom this out. So if it's epidermis, I should just come down here because I got this pretty picture right there ready to go. So I'll come up here, blow this up, and bring me up a little notepad. And some of these are, a couple of sentences are pretty long, so we better scoot over a little bit. Epidermis. Now, with the epidermis, the first thing we want to recognize is keratinized, okay, meaning it's got keratin, and keratin is just simply cells that are packed with tough, dense proteins. But I've got that somewhere. Where is that? It's in when we talk about Oh yeah, lucidium. I mentioned it. I'll put that officially type that up there, but that's what keratinized means. It's just full of tough, dense proteins. But we are stratified squamous, and we mentioned this earlier. Stratified squamous cells. And they are packed with keratin, as we mentioned. And again, keratin is just simply these tough, dense proteins that the tissue or the cells are packed with. And no blood vessels. No blood vessels. So when you look at, like for instance, I'm looking at my hand here, my wrist, and you can see the blue and the red, the blood vessels. So since I can see those, that means with that red and blue in the background, those are translucent enough to see through. So I'm looking right through my epidermis and looking right into my dermis. I keep having to adjust. I guess the phone book I'm sitting on, so I can get tall enough to look over the desk. I guess that's keeps shifting on me. So let's see, diffusion. Diffusion. Oh, got an extra A in there. Diffusion. Now, it gets its nutrients that the epidermis needs. It gets it from the dermis below. It diffuses into, so the things below the dermis supply the dermis, and then the dermis supplies the epidermis with things it needs, which is simple diffusion. And we talked about diffusion back when, we talked about diffusion back in passive transport with the plasma membrane. And let me think. No, wait, you guys weren't a part of that process, so we should stop here and talk diffusion just for a second. Remember, diffusion is that process of the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane uses to get materials into and out as well. And it is a passive transport, which means it doesn't take any energy. It happens naturally, and it travels through the plasma membrane, whether it's through a carrier protein or just if it's a small enough molecule like oxygen or water, then it can pass in the membrane on its own naturally without any assistance. And it's got some nerve endings, so you do feel some, but if you really want to get a good poke, you got to go deeper than the epidermis. All right, so that is overview of the. Oh, I didn't put the word overview. Let me do that. That's the word of the day, overview. If you're wondering what the word of the day was, it is overview, because that's such a cool teacher skill word there. All right, so now we're going to go over here and talk about the types of cells. And again, I'll put this right below my picture here so you can be reading what I'm typing, giggling at my misspellings word, but also getting a chance to see me there again, which is, I know, super important. All right, 5 types of cells. Five types of cells in the epidermis, and we'll number them here because that's a cool teacher move. Skill set. Stem cells. Okay, oh, and there's a little space there. Stem cells. These are undifferentiated cells. and they make all the cells. We'll put the word replacement cells when we talk about one of the layers of work. That's where it happens. But stem cells are undifferentiated, which means they aren't a type yet, other than the fact that they are a type of cell. But they're not any of the others yet, and their only purpose is to become the others. They're like a source, and if the cell needs this type, then they become those. If they need this type of cell, it becomes those. But they're undifferentiated, but one of the ones that they become is the keratin. Keratinocytes. And of course, these are the cells that make and produce the keratin. But again, they become all types. They're really just replacement cells. Whatever your cells types that you need, the stem cells can become that. So 2 is the previously what? All right, and these are the majority of the cells. And of course, it makes the keratin. And you may be thinking, okay, we've said that word a couple of times now, but what is it? Excuse me. Keratin. I'm sure, and you're well familiar with this, I'm sure, but you can think of your fingernails. That's the most obvious example of keratin. It's just a real tough substance that, again, is packed full of the protein, dense proteins. Your hair is made of keratin up there. Super, super important. Melanocytes, number 3. And melon. Why is it so? Why am I struggling with that? Oocytes, melanocytes, and of course these produce melanin. That A-N? No, O-N. That's not even right. Melanin is what it should be, and where is that? No, I didn't write down. Is it A-I-N? I didn't write down. Okay, so I'm going to apologize. I did not write that word down. I just abbreviated on my paper here. So I'm going to do the classic teacher move that I do apologize. I don't think I spelled right, and I didn't write it down. But you know what I'm talking about, and you can spell it properly on your paper. Again, I apologize. That is not a good teacher move right there. Okay, but what this does is it protects from UV. And we know what melanoma is, the idea of skin cancer. And so melanin protects from the UV, and it's made by the melanocytes. And number 4 type of cell, in the epidermis, tactile cells, and I pointed these bad boys out earlier. Okay, but that's the touch. That's the touch receptors. So when you feel something, it's the tactile cells. So I guess officially, or more correctly, whenever you smash your finger in the car door, you can say, dang, I just hurt my tactile cells. Something fierce, or something like that. Or when, you're hanging out with your friends or whatever, and they're like, man, my arm is sore. Say, no, your arm isn't sore. Your tactile cells are sore. It's what's sore. And they'll be going, oh, okay, thank you. And the fifth type, dendrite. And excuse me, when you get to ANP2 and when you get to right off the bat start talking about nervous system, neurons, all that stuff, then you'll get a big dose of dendrite cells, and those are pretty cool. Oh, I did say dendrite. A thousand apologies. Not dendrite, dendritic. I got ahead of myself. I started one word and went to a different word. But these are macrophages. Okay, macrophages, and they're just hunters. They're hunters. They're just moving around, looking for things that aren't supposed to be here, and they're looking to get rid of it. And you can find those in in different levels, but they are part of the immune system. Huge, but they just travel around, just looking for stuff that don't need to be here. So that is 5 types of cells. So let me close this out, and now we're going to begin a process. So now we can officially say that we are real close to the end. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more things, but they're all super short. So we are going to move up, and now what we're going to do, actually we're not going to move up, let's move over and put this in the center, and now we're going to be talking about some of these levels. Matter of fact, these 5, yeah, do we talk about, I don't think we talk about corneum, but we talk about basal, spinosus, linoleum, lucidium, and what's my other one? Oh no, I do talk about corneum. There it is. Yep, I overlooked it. So here we go. So let's go over here. Now I'm going to just make one box here, and then as we talk about each type, we'll just keep going down. But these are layers. Layers of the epidermis. And so we'll number, and then the things in between will just be notes, and we'll put the little dash to signify outline format. Excuse me there. All right, so our first one, stratum. And of course, you see that word stratum. That just means layer. Layer of, in this case, the epidermis, basal. And you know what, just to make it easier, so actually I'm going to, yeah. Okay, no, never mind. What I was thinking there was that why don't I just go in order, but I'm starting at the bottom and working my way up. So I'm going to start here and work my way up, and over here we'll be going, obviously going down, but that's the order: basal, spinosum, granulosolum, and lucidium, and corneum. So we'll be going up this way, but it's obviously down this way. And so let me get a little line there. So single layer. And you may say, well, they're pretty small. They all should be singles. No. Look at how. So single layer here, but then look how thick that spinosum is. And of course, the granulosum is less than the basal, but certainly not a spinosum. And lucidium, I mean, that is really thin. That light pink going through there, and of course corneum. And that one you will only find in the thick. But I'll mention that. I'll have that on the screen shortly. Single layer, cuboidal. Okay, cuboidal. So again, so you know, we're looking more cube-like, that type of ideal. idea, I should say. Oh, and it's got of the 5, it's got 4. It's got 4 types of the skin cells, and the one it doesn't have, there's no. Let me look over my list here. Yes. Oh, it's the dendritic cells. No dendritic. No dendritic cells. No dendritic cells. And let's see next. Oh no, wait. Oh, it's the replacement cells. The replacement cells for everybody are made here, starts here, forms here. So in the stratum basal, if new keratinocytes need to be made, or new melanocytes, stems, or tactile cells, they're all made in the stratum basal. Okay, next up, number 2. And let's see, let's go stratum. And I promise you I'll go in order, so spinosum. And draw myself a little note there. And oh, I got to turn the page here. So now we're on the back side. We are down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to talk about. Stratum spinosum, several layers. But we're all keratinocytes. We're all keratinocytes, and this is the thickest layer, as you can see by the diagram, in thin skin. Now, when it comes to thick skin, that title goes to the corneum in the top layer. So, in thick skin, like on your feet and hands, it's truly the outer surface is where the thickness comes from. So, if you can imagine in a relative diagram, if this is the thickness of your spinosum, so now, and that's your corneum, imagine if your corneum is thicker than that. So it would go all the way. Get me a little pin here. The corneum on your heel or your foot or your palm would be all the way up to here. It'd be a really thick pad, which is what gives it that firm, kind of leathery feeling on a hand or in a handshake. Let's close that. And let's see. Mitosis occurs in deep cells, meaning down deep into the muscle tissue or the tissue itself. So, and we're going to talk about keratinocytes in their life journey, as that's how we're going to end and wrap up with. But it's a process to where, as they work their way towards the surface, of the skin, but when they're deep, they can go through mitosis. So not only is the stem cells making them or converting into them, we've also got mitosis going on, which means a keratinocyte will divide. Now you got 2, then 4, then 8, 16, and so on and so on. But this is where it happens in the spinosum. And of course, you've got your dendritic cells as well. Excuse me. And that's number 2. So number 3, and now we get real short here. What's next? Grisolium. Granulosolium. Granulosome. Let's see. GRANULOSUM. And again, super short, only one thing here. 3 to 5 layers. So again, you can see on our diagram the basal, granulosolium, and the corneum. So if the granulosolium is 3 to 5 layers, and that means the basal is 6 to 8, it looks like relatively 3 to 5 layers of, and it's keratinocytes again. Keratin cells. And that's all on granulosolium. So 4, next up is the lucidium. And a bullet point here, and this has 2. It's only in thick skin. Yeah, it's only in the thick skin. And I said 2. I was wrong with that. I counted the title as 1. And so 5. Who's next? Corneum. Corneum. Again, just 1. This is 1. Can be 30 layers. Layers of dead cells, and of course this is the thick skin. Okay, 30 layers of dead cell. Just what you have to remember is this is a process of from where the things are made, and we are getting ready to kind of highlight all that stuff or emphasize all that stuff. But it's a journey from the basal to where it gets made up to the corneum. And we are going to highlight that right now. So let me slide over here, get myself a little pad here, bring this up here, and I'm just going to go life. Keratinocytes. Now, part 1. I'm big on numbering today. Produced in basal. And I'm not putting the word stratum, but recognize that stratum should be there. So the whole process starts in the basal. That's where they're made, whether the stem cells convert into keratinocytes or whether keratinocytes goes through mitosis and makes more. Okay, part 2. I just mentioned mitosis. Mitosis can be one of the ways that they're made. You can either stem cells can convert into them, or mitosis can be a part of that process. And then they move upward, traveling upward. They're looking to get to the surface of the skin, and to where at that time they're dead. Okay, they are dead cells. They're dead to you, they're dead to me, they're dead to all of us. But they're moving upward, layer by layer by layer by layer. And this can take 30 to 40 days. And of course, then at that point in time, they get to the surface. They hang on for a while, but then they eventually, since they're dead and everything, they slough off, and You know, they get all over your sheets and furniture and cabs. And for those people that can flake off, and some people can be heavy flakers, especially in their hair, and you can see that and everything. So, but that is the information, the first of 3 parts for the epidermis. So again, thank you. Hey, thank you for being part of this. Thank you for being here with us. And until next time, with that, we will say goodbye.